Hi everyone, so this is Bash, your multilingual friend or your polyglot friend. Today I'm gonna be talking about how I became fluent in Spanish in less than a year. So this video is the start of my how I became fluent in each language that I speak and the journey behind it. So this one is about how I became fluent in Spanish in less than a year. So before I get into the video, I would like to talk about how or why I decided to learn Spanish. And so basically, I was living in England for a few years by that time. It had been a few years since I've moved to England. I've been living there for about, I think, 3-4 years. And the culture there is very different from my native culture, which is like Middle Eastern culture. And so it was a very different vibe there, basically. And then when I was in university, I met some people from Spain, and I would see them like as groups together from far away, and it kind of like reminded me of my own culture, Middle Eastern culture, how it's like such a collectivistic society. And that just gave me that spark of like, oh, I want to learn about that culture. I want to learn about Spain. I want to learn the language. I would just want to learn, like, I want to immerse myself in that whole world. And that's how I became that's how I wanted to, like, why I wanted to learn the language. So first thing what I did was I took classes, and I was lucky enough to to attend a university where they were offering language classes. So I wasn't even sure if I was like legible or if I was allowed to take those classes, but I asked them and they said, yeah, as long as you're a student here, you can take those classes, because like, it was not part of my university course. Anyway, so I got so excited. I took A1, which is the first level of the languages. So I took A1 level of Spanish, of course. And even though I had like missed out on like 2 weeks of the lessons and I had to catch up, but because I was so excited, like I literally, like, I don't know how to say, like I was like a sponge. I literally absorbed all the information in one day. I just did my own like reading and stuff just to catch up with the rest of the class. And even the lecturer was like, oh, you don't need me to teach you any, like, you don't need any private lessons because you're already caught up. But yeah, it was so much, I had so much fun learning, like just I don't know, I found it easy. It was not that hard because A1 is easy anyways because it's just the beginning and the basics, just to learn very basic grammar, basic sentences, so it's nothing too hard. And yeah, I passed it, and it was very much active learning. And also at the same time I tried to do Duolingo, which was, I don't know, I mean, it helped, but I would say it didn't really help me to that extent, because I feel like with Duolingo, even though you're like doing all these exercises, for me personally at least, it felt like a bit passive. Like unless I would bring out like a whole notebook and like write them down myself. So yeah, the classes help a lot more than doing Duolingo. And the next step was basically yeah, I tried to watch some shows, listen to songs in Spanish. Again, it was like, that was very passive as well. It's not like you're actively speaking it or writing. So that was also passive, but it definitely helps even your subconscious mind to get used to the sounds of that new language. And in this case, it was Spanish, for your brain to kind of like just get used to it. So that's what I did. And then for the, I think, yeah, it was for the next year of my university, I went to study abroad. I went to Spain. So again, that was like that's also like one of the best ways to improve your language skills, is to move to another country. So my journey there was like very interesting, because when I first got there, obviously because they speak very fast. They obviously it's their native language. Everyone speaks so fast. I couldn't understand anything. I just knew very like minimum A1 level Spanish, and I could not communicate in Spanish with the local Spanish people like whatsoever, because they it was just like they were just speaking so fast. I could not like understand them, and yeah, I would like I was only able to speak very basic sentences, and like they had to speak very slowly for me to understand, so it was not working out that way. So obviously, yeah, I was speaking English to the other exchange students who were from other countries, and also I had to speak English to the Spanish people, because yeah, I couldn't I couldn't keep up with their pace. And when I was there, I took also Spanish classes, A2 level, of course, and it was much harder than A1, so there was a lot of work. Again, this was like active learning for me. It was very like you had to write, you had to read, speak, listen. Especially speaking in class, you always had to speak the language. The teacher obviously would not speak any English. They only spoke Spanish, so that kind of forced you to learn more, which is like an amazing way to learn a new language. You just kind of like speak with a native, especially a teacher, because they would be speaking very slowly with you and be patient. And yeah, so that was very helpful when I was there. But still, I was obviously speaking English with the students. After like I think 4 or 5 months had passed, I was a bit disappointed with my level in Spanish, because I was like, I've been here for like nearly 5 months and I still can't even hold a proper conversation with the natives, the locals, and I just got very frustrated. So I decided to take classes in Spanish, which was crazy, because like it's like I was studying geography in Spanish, and yeah, I just took like not many, just like 1 or 2 in them, but that in that case I was actually forcing myself to speak only Spanish with Spaniards, and most of them, obviously some of them did not speak English. Oh, also one thing I forgot to mention earlier, when I first moved to Spain, even though I was not speaking Spanish, I was like, for example, saying very basic things. I learned basic things from the supermarkets, like when I would do grocery shopping, and like at the grocery store, like you would just say hi, hola, and then they would say very basic things like to you, like, oh, bolsa, ¿quieres? Like things like that, or ¿quieres bolsa? And then you say no or sí, depending on if you need it or not. But it was like very interesting to learn some basic things just from doing basic things. And going to the restaurants, the same thing, just ordering. And so yeah, that was like that helps you also to learn those at least basic things. Anyway, so back to me living there after 5 months, and that's when my Spanish improved tremendously by forcing myself talking to the locals in Spanish, especially if I was in a Spanish class, like a subject taught in Spanish. Obviously the teacher is going to be speaking Spanish, everyone around you are speaking Spanish, and then when you have to ask them for homework or anything, like obviously you have to speak in Spanish, and that was the case. And also one more thing, that like this is a really good tip if you're in a foreign country and you have to go somewhere, you need something, and you have to speak the language. And what I did was, like, for example, one time I had an issue with my phone, so I just Googled all that, like, or Google translated, or tried to look it up on Google, everything that I needed to say when I go to the shop, and also like going to the hair salon as well, which actually kind of like it did not work well, because they would say something else and then you're like, oh, I don't know about that. But basically, for example, before getting a haircut, I would like literally look everything up what I need to ask them about hair, and like just learn basic terminology about hair, cutting your hair, and what kind of look do you want, if you want layers. So I would like literally write them all down and kind of like know what I'm gonna say beforehand, so as soon as I go to the salon I know what I'm gonna ask for in Spanish. And so I did that. I said I wanted layers or something like that. I even showed her a picture. I was like, this is what I want. And then she asked me something. I was like, oh damn, like she asked me something about the front hair. She was like, what do you want? Do you want it to be long or short and stuff? And honestly, because I could not understand, I just said, yeah, she gave me two options, so I just picked one of them, even though it was not what I wanted, but it's just like I had to. But yeah, it was okay. And then anyways, so yeah, that was like how I learned everything. And then at the end of my academic year, by then, like it was my 10th month, because I stayed there in Spain for 10 months. At the end of that journey, like the Erasmus study abroad journey, I was so proud of myself. Like I was fluent, I was like holding conversations with locals, and yeah, it was literally all because of I did all of these steps that I just mentioned. I forced myself to speak it with the locals, and yeah, it was very interesting, you know. It's like, and sometimes even when you don't know what to say or how to express something, I would just kind of like say a few words or phrases and stuff, and then obviously if the other person is your friend and they're nice enough and stuff, they would understand what you mean. Obviously it's like there are certain body language or gestures like humans like share, we all share the same. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned a lot from this video, and stay tuned for the next ones.